Welcome into the weekend edition of the Leans, the Locks. I'm Shander. Lindy's got you Monday through Friday. Now you're stuck with me on the weekend, but it's not all bad. I can turn $5 into $200 like that on DraftKings and also some other cool stuff that we have here going on. So not going to ask much. We're going to dive right into it. Thumbs up, subscribe, please. That's really all we ask. And let me tell you how you can turn $5 into $200. You must be 21 or over. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. But you can turn $5 into $200 by taking 90 seconds out of your life. That's it. Click a link below. It's going to bring you to DraftKings. Sign up, deposit $5 and only $5. And then once you're signed up, immediately put that $5 on the Miami Heat to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. That's all. Just do that. Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern. Now, here's the beauty of it. You don't even need to wait for that game to start, let alone finish, whatever. As soon as you place the wager, $5 turns into $200, and you're good to go. Ready, set on DraftKings. That's what we call a bankroll builder for you, wherever you are. Maybe you're in a state that's brand new to sports betting, or maybe you just put off DraftKings. Whatever is the case, that's fine. Just click the link, sign up, $5, put it on the Heat, and there you have it. 5 into 200. There we have it. Let us begin. Speaking of which, why don't we start with that game? Now, the Milwaukee Bucks right now, looking at this squad surviving, if you will, with a low-scoring Giannis, just trying to get around. Drew Holiday's been up and down on the injury report. The absence of Chris Middleton. It seems as if Milwaukee is still playing well, even though they're skating by here. I think this is where it catches up to them. They're on the road still. Miami's not an easy spot. Miami's been picking up steam, picking up some momentum. They're only laying 1.5 at home. I get it. Giannis is currently questionable at the time at which we're talking. But here's where I think you can jump in. Giannis doesn't play. Clearly, Miami is laying, 3.5, 5, depending on how much this builds. Giannis does play. I don't think you're seeing any difference. So we're getting ahead of possibility here, and that has been a theme that has worked for us, CLV or just winning bets, what have you. We open up with the Miami Heat laying 1.5 against a possible situation without Giannis. But even with Giannis, we've seen the defense take over in times, just not having enough closing power. Miami, even with their own injuries, no issue there. All right, let's keep it moving. We go to Charlotte, where the Boston Celtics are in an interesting spot here, right? They're about to play 2 straight games against the Charlotte Hornets. You can look at this a couple of ways. I'm looking at it the first and only way, which is, hey, just blow this shit out of this team right now, and then we don't have to worry. Whatever happens, we'll go through the motions, get through that there, game 2, as opposed to just coming out and doing the opposite and then putting yourself back to the wall in that second game. There's just no need to do that. So if you're Boston right now, you take care of business this opening game. And I think, you look at this line and it's pretty big. And you're right to have a little pause here. But at 7.5, and we're just north of that key number, and it should definitely upset you, but not ruin your ability to place this wager, just upset you to an extent. I think the Celtics right now are still in lack of malaise mode. They're still trying to avoid that setting in this long season. And this is a good spot here to blow a team out as opposed to just hang. And again, the difference is a one-off. I'm taking the Hornets. The fact that they have to turn around and play them again, I'm taking the Celtics. We move to Indiana. Now, we just got our first glimpse of the Pacers minus Halliburton, right? Start to look at this team. They're getting 7.5 at home against Memphis. Well, we know that the Memphis Grizzlies, on purpose at least, aren't really sitting anybody on the surface. Brandon Clark, outside of what's going on the bench, this is more about what the Grizzlies plan on doing here, knowing that the Pacers just a little below what are our normal expectations without Tyrese Halliburton. So I think you can slide in here. And where I really like the angle more so than anything, and this is my top play, would be to lock in the Pacers north of the key number. Again, the difference between looking at the Celtics laying the same amount, so much of that is predicated on them coming back and playing the Hornets for the second time in the second time in a row. 2 straight times they're playing the same team. Little different here in a one-off scenario. The Pacers lost on Friday night without Halliburton. It's not the Pacers battled, the Pacers were able to score, the Pacers kept up with. No. It's they lost to the Hawks. That's all that matters in this spread. And I think just getting north of 7.5 at home, which we just saw them keep it tight, keep it close within a bucket, I'm willing to take that same chance with the Pacers. Let's move to Toronto. Now it gets a little interesting. You've got the Hawks, speaking of which, back-to-back action, taking on the Toronto Raptors. Now, Raptors, a little different story because, not playing the previous night, playing host here to Atlanta, you can start to look at what Toronto has been able to do at home at least, and they've been keeping their head above water. They've been keeping their season arguably alive simply by having a pulse at home. At home, points have been scored. They've been able to get a little deeper. They've been able to establish some leads. They've just been able to run. And I think that feeds into where the Hawks are right now in at least this opportunity, in this game. Coming off one where, it wasn't a little bit of a monster scoring effort. And I don't think you're coming off a, huge, at least, letdown, where your team put up $140 the night before, and now all of a sudden it's like, can you get to that level? I think at Toronto, where there's going to be an encouragement to run, there's going to be some scoring involved here. You are coming off the back-to-back. I understand that. But again, you're not coming off a typical night of scoring for Atlanta. And I think that's a really good idea right now. Here's the other part too, is as we move to this Minnesota game, Wolves were in action on Friday night, as we know. But I also think, and that Suns game really aside, because you're not really getting the true representation by any means. Phoenix was also, by the way. So what do? You have a game right now where it's going to be, the Timberwolves just tight at home against the Cavs. Cleveland is desperately trying to challenge or at least reestablish the road narrative for them. This is a pretty good chance to do that. Minnesota coming off action last night, now hosting a team in Cleveland who starting to at least even out and not as dominant of a flash as we saw. Nothing like Utah by any means, but on the road, it's just been hurting you. You come into this game and you start to clash with the Wolves. Again, I like Cleveland in this game, and because I like Cleveland in this game, I can see a couple of scenarios playing out where this game goes under. And you let me know in the chat, as we always say, if it's not up, it's a lean, and you can let us know when you see that number up there. But I'm going to go under this number here for the Wolves and Cavs. Minnesota's going to do everything they can to slow this thing down. Hold on. Just slow that thing down. And I think Cleveland definitely needs to, and I don't mean slow down to the point of like a snail. I mean like having Russell Westbrook take a breath slow down type. Like you can still be fast. You can still get up the floor. It's just not the same. But we'll go under the Wolves in that total. Speaking of which, let's hit the Jazz. Brought up the Jazz. This team is kind of falling a little bit. Now, the difference, of course, they come off Friday night action hosting the Orlando Magic, where, they needed some buckets from Lauri Markkanen as expected up top just to be able to compete. In this case, where you're starting to see at least the season slowly slip away. Philadelphia, on the other hand, needing to put together some stretches here just to keep up with Boston, to keep up with Brooklyn, but they've been able to do that. Tobias Harris, a little up and down here, anticipating that Tobias Harris does not play. All of a sudden, this game at 235 seems just a little high. We just saw this, mind you, against the Oklahoma City Thunder with the Philadelphia 76ers. That was at home, but still, where you can have letdown night And you could have a team give up a bunch of points, but letdown night comes on offense. I think defensively, they snap back. People are like, oh, they're going to bounce back. Yeah, hold on a second. They're going to bounce back from that bad loss to the Thunder, I have no doubt. But that bounce back is going to be more a matter of defensively snapping back. And I don't necessarily think that you can just pour in points here. And Utah is going to go up against a tough defensive matchup, especially on the perimeter. So if Jordan Clarkson can't drop 50, I think, and Embiid the same, and, Embiid does have a shot at doing that. I just don't see it happening tonight, Saturday night. I just don't look at this game specifically with where the Sixers are and how they need to hone in and continue, as I mentioned, to chase opportunity ahead of them. Still, as much as it looked like they were competing with win streaks alongside the Celtics and Nets this year, only won 6 of their last 10. Losses come and they're kind of staggered strategically. Not for the Sixers by any means. It's hard to put shit together that way, but we'll go under 235. Last game, Mavs Blazers. This thing's dipping. Initially, when we were talking about this, sent this whole thing out to our great producer, Kennedy, as she was building the program here for us. Mavs, I'm looking at this plus 1.5. It was lean. I should have locked it in because it's dipped. It's now at 1. It might even be lower by the time you're watching this video. So, what do we do here? Well, Christian Wood is banged up. That's a problem. Dallas right now going through some injury issues. The other side of that is, well, Damian Lillard playing hurt. We know that. Still up in the air as far as questionable is concerned, and they're only laying 1 at home. So, what's the most likely possibility here? You're talking about a Mavs team that's playing hurt, most likely Luka. Christian Wood does not look good. But on the other side, Dame may or may not play now. So even though Luka's playing hurt, Lillard heavy on the injury report. And this is where I think we can get ahead of this game. And this is where I think we slide in. And what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. Damian Lillard plays. Best thing that can happen is, well, Lillard's out, and all of a sudden +1 looks golden because this is going to be bet through 0. So some of this, and again, we get ahead of these games early in our discussion and our plays. And Lindy, I know, is a smart individual. He's smarter than me. So he's applying this mentality. We are. Anytime we're trying to get ahead of stuff a day or a half a day, what have you, ahead of stuff, it's never an excuse. It's just an explanation. It's never a justification. It's just a reason. But this is a perfect example. And we talked about this with Giannis. We talked about this with the bigger the name, especially this year in the NBA, it seems as if lack of injury an injury or lack of a player as a result of that, right up to the top, star player, doesn't seem to have as much impact on the game as the line movement would indicate. Doesn't mean the final result. I'm just saying the line movement. So we've gotten ahead of this a couple of times over. That's been our theme tonight. Guys that are questionable, it's not going to move against us. If they play, that's what's built in right now, that they're playing. If they don't play, well, now we're ahead of this because the market's going to move completely against that side. We've gotten in first. So there you have it. Now, let's run it back. Miami -1.5 are lean. Celtics -7.5 are lean. Pacers +7.5 lock play. Over 233 Toronto. Under Wolves game. Under Jazz game. Mavs +1 now as our lean. 1 lock. That's fine. That's fine. Thumbs up on the way out. Subscribe on the way out. You know the drill about DraftKings. Click that link. Sign up. Bet anything you want. I'm giving you the Heat against the Bucks. As soon as you place that wager, you don't even need to wait for the game to start. As soon as you place that wager, $5 into $200. You must be 21. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm Eytan. I'll see you for Sunday.